Yeah, Mark, and it is clear that these guys knew exactly what they're doing. At 5:30 a.m., they pull a rented U-Haul up to this spot. They bust in these doors and pull out tens of thousands of dollars worth of bikes, load them into the back of that truck, and they are gone in exactly 1 minute and 34 seconds. Yeah, that's right. We got a press release earlier today from the Utah State Prison. They say that some of the inmates may be taking commissary items into their cell and have indeed been eating. They won't tell us how many of those prisoners have been eating, but meanwhile, those who support the prisoners say this protest highlights some problems that the prison has been dealing with for some time.
At age 81, sometimes you don't hit the step just exactly right.
Warren Rosenbaum,
very conservative,
falls on the right end of the political spectrum. His office is draped in pictures of Ronald Reagan.
I like Trump.
Donald Trump and Law and Order Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
He was a hardliner when it came to criminal justice.
But last year, Warren
usually put it together on this one.
Began assembling a monthly newsletter for the benefit of, oddly enough, prison inmates.
They're not treated like human beings.
Rosenbaum's brother-in-law was imprisoned in 2014, and Warren watched his pain and at age 80 became an advocate for prisoners' rights.
The inner being is killed. They come out somewhat like zombies.
You're entitled to your human dignity.
He now sides with, of all people, the ACLU when it comes to the hunger strike underway at the Utah State Prison. Initially, we were only told by prison officials that the 42 so-called gang members wanted to have their gang leaders let out of high security.
We have received about 30 letters from some of the prisoners in the unit.
But the ACLU says there is much more to their demands, including a plea for better education and rehabilitation programs, better food, and more access to exercise.
Prisoners are only let out of their cells for about an hour 3 times a week.
That's what he wrote in the letter.
Tonight, Rosenbaum is getting the August edition of his newsletter ready for distribution and hoping the hunger strike will shed light on a dark place in the criminal justice system.
A nation that stands for humane treatment doesn't realize what's going on behind the walls.
Now, some of the things we're hearing about the food from sources is that in some occasions they are replacing meat products with soy products. And we are also hearing that some of the inmates used to get 2 small containers of milk a day. We understand that in some cases they are only getting 1. Now, the state prison says that they will not capitulate to the demands of the prisoners. They say that there could be disciplinary action because of it. They also say legal action. That means that potentially if this goes on, there could be force feeding of the prisoners. Guys, back to you.
All right, Chris, thank you very much.
Yard tools,
Bradley,
construction material.
And Rachel Clothier
Notice a lot of people are coming and buying and selling stuff.
Are shocked by the volume of items neighbor Todd Whitebush is hawking online.
What's that all about?
So much so that it becomes a point of fascination and suspicion for the couple.
And when you're selling 2 lawnmowers a week, it's probably not yours.
They begin checking out Whitebush's internet ads regularly.
So, no, get out the iPad, let's see what's on, the classifieds.
And getting a chuckle at times.
It was more the grammatical errors, it was more our cheap entertainment.
Like the time Whitebush was selling puppies.
Puppies, it was spelled poopies. I mean, that was pretty classic.
What wasn't classic?
It's just a sinking feeling.
Was how they felt when they saw this ad while they were out of town on vacation.
You have that split second where you're like, no, he wouldn't. He did. It's just like, it has to be.
Whitebush was allegedly selling an expensive ladder, and the Clothiers had one just like it, except theirs had a dent in the bottom rung. They weren't sure if it belonged to them, but then they read the description, which said, quote, "There is a dent in the bottom rung."
That's totally my ladder on there.
When the Clothiers get home,
I just had a lock on this guy right here. It's a little bit smaller one than this.
They find the ladder and other items are gone and call police.
If we hadn't caught it, what else might have gone missing?
Tonight, Whitebush faces burglary charges, and the Clothiers realize just how close to home crime can hit.
You at least go a couple doors down and pull this sort of shenanigans.
She was amazing and beautiful.
For Gabby Finlayson,
she's been someone that I look up to for a long time.
The grace and humanity of actress Audrey Hepburn,
it's really, really beautiful,
was the inspiration behind this bead and lace dress purchased with her mom.
When she saw it, she's like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, this is perfect. This is so beautiful."
Almost perfect for the Girls' Choice dance at Lone Peak High last Saturday. Gabby decided it did need some changes.
There was a bodice underneath that I had taken up, altered, just to make sure it was completely covering everything.
Perfect. Now, off to the dance.
I was insulted.
Insulted because a school staff member implied she was showing too much shoulder or back, and that she needed to cover up.
I was embarrassed. I was definitely embarrassed.
How have we gotten to the point where we kind of look at shoulders as if they're somehow pornographic?
For the rest of the dance, she was cloaked under a winter coat. Her mom incensed.
The message that sends to girls is really troubling and damaging, and they've already got so many other damaging messages that are being sent to them.
Lone Peak's dress code says that backless dresses may not extend beyond the shoulder blade, and they have to have 2-inch minimum straps on each shoulder, and the dresses need to be at least mid-thigh.
Well, the straps are 2 inches.
Gabby says her dress is just fine and is bothered that these girls were also at the dance, but not asked to cover up.
There were a lot of dresses that were very short, very tight, a lot more exposing or revealing than mine.
Tonight, Gabby is handling the controversy with the grace of her idol, Audrey Hepburn. And she wonders why girls seem to be the ones who always shoulder the burden of so-called inappropriateness.
Maybe instead of teaching girls that they should cover themselves up, we should be teaching boys that we're not just sex objects that they can look at.
I was happy.
This home on Sarah Circle
The house was beautiful. It was nice.
had everything Joanna's family needed.
I was just excited about it.
But from day one, she says, unusual experiences, a garage door that opens and closes on its own, and a general sense of unease.
You feel like somebody's watching you at the window.
I hear people crying when I'm showering.
Most recently, Joanna says she found her son talking to no one.
And he was looking at the stair, at the swing, and he was like, no, no, leave me alone, no. He's a 1-year-old.
She says the experiences continued, and then a neighbor revealed to her the history of the home. So you knew nothing about Josh Powell or Susan Powell?
No, nothing.
Susan Powell disappeared from this home in 2009. Her husband was the primary suspect, but later killed himself and the couple's 2 children in Washington State.
You're not looking forward to this?
A few days ago, Joanna moved out.
You're not going to go in?
No. I get the chills. I don't want to be here.
She says the leasing company should have informed her.
Did they tell you about the history of the house?
Nobody did.
She says the company, American Homes for Rent, won't let her out of the lease and won't move her into a different house. She says that is wrong. But she says it doesn't matter because she's leaving and will never return.
I believe they should have. They should have told me. I just don't want to be in there.
Beneath the jet planes of Hill Air Force Base.
The last hurrah.
And literally at the end of the line
This is a Baldwin Westinghouse locomotive.
is an aging relic of past Air Force brawn.
All the way from down here, all the way to this end, is all engine.
This locomotive, circa 1952, has been in service since Eisenhower was president.
Relatively unusual.
Hill has tried to find a military home for it, but this old Baldwin Westinghouse is a massive muscle
This is cool. I mean, this is an antique.
that romantics like surplus expert Dean Quatafir may have flexed its muscle for the very last time.
We have not been able to start this.
Well, there's a big old switch. Maybe
Yeah.
we could start it up.
I'm going to go ahead and try.
No. Oh, well. I'm not buying it.
So this massive baby blue beauty is on the auction block.
Minimum bid, $25.
Yeah, you could have an 80,000-ton locomotive for the price of a pair of new sneakers. So let's say you did get lucky and you got the whole locomotive for only 25 bucks. It's not like you're going to be able to just start this thing up and roll it right down these tracks, because the Air Force wants you to haul this away. That means you got to get trucks, cranes, permits. To do all that, probably going to cost you about 60,000 bucks.
If I was to take this apart myself for scrap, I would definitely harvest the copper out of there.
Quata says that, of course, is a possibility, but he says he'd love to think that this blue beast may one day churn down the tracks again.
There is a scrap value to it. I just think that there is more of an aesthetic, nostalgic value to it, for me personally.